it is preparing to live stream the meeting.
Okay, let me check the community.
All right, I am. Oh. Here is the link. Leah, chat. Okay, I'm gonna let everyone in.
Okay.
Hello, 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 hello.
Hey.
Oh, sun-kissed Linda. Don't mind if you do.
Well, a little bit sunburned Linda too. I definitely gravely underestimated the Central American sun.
I can't tell you how jealous I am. I just went on a walk with the dog and it's just gross out.
I don't really have a response to that.
Yep. Hey, Sharon.
Hi. Hi, thank you for having me here.
Oh, yeah, welcome. All right. Roxanne, hello. All right. We got Jennifer, Victoria, Brittany. This is a great group. Great group. Okay. And then we're also, my dog is right under me, Buxley. Okay. We're also live streaming this in the community. Thank you, Leah. But let's get kicked off. So pumped for y'all to be here today. Bit of background, Leah and I just wanted to have more chill, easy, casual, I know all of those are synonyms, conversations with you all about some of the topics that we just hear you guys talking about and that we see in the community, or some things that we realize that we as prowess hear and talk about a ton, but maybe y'all don't get that like inside behind the curtain type scenes on. And so I figured this topic specifically would be really good about this. And I'm really excited that both Linda and Brittany are on. So today, what we want to talk about are the top traits that clients are asking for when we're talking to them. These are typically employers who want to employ really one of the three, a project manager, an operations specialist, or a digital marketer. Those are typically the three main roles that people are coming to us for at the moment, which is great because that is the vast majority of our talent pool too. And we're going to continue to get more and more. But before we get kicked off and talk through some of the top things that we're hearing or top traits that we're hearing, I would love if everyone just did a quick 30-second, hey, this is who I am, and this is why I came to this today. It can be as straightforward as, I'm looking for a job. Any insight so we can cater the conversation to y'all would be amazing. So who wants to kick it off?
I'll go.
Awesome, Sharon.
Yeah, so my name is Sharon. I'm from California, and I'm here this morning to just kind of learn the exact topic. I'm new to recruiting, and I'm really excited about it. So yeah, thank you.
Awesome. All right. Jennifer or Victoria? And if y'all are in a spot where you can't talk, just shoot us a... Oh, perfect.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer White. I have a background of operations and supply chain, and I am here today to soak up information. It's kind of difficult to know what's going on out there in the marketplace when you don't have exact research. So I'm here to basically hear what you guys have learned with your ears to the streets.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Awesome. Glad you're here, Jennifer. All right. Victoria?
Hi, my name is Victoria Kyle, and I'm in California. I have been out of the workforce for about 18 years, and I'm just now thinking about getting back in. I've joined Reboot XL and Returnize and some other groups, and I can't remember which one had some information about you guys. So I thought, oh, I'll go and just check out and see what you have to offer. I was a CFO in my previous life.
Awesome. 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 It was probably Reboot Excel. They have been fantastic. Love what they're doing and really excited to partner with them. So awesome. Awesome. All right. And Roxanne.
Hi, everyone. I'm Roxanne. I'm sorry that there goes my Dotson. Hang on just a second.
And then I think does everyone know Leah, Linda, and Brittany?
I've met some through email and some in person, but hello, you've probably got an email from me, whether it's boot camp or certification. And if you're in certification, you've heard my lovely voice and seen my face in the videos. But I joined Ashley about 2 years ago when she was getting all this started because I'm very passionate about the mission and I'm a returner myself. So putting all of my past experience and my background into helping Prowess get going and helping all of you guys.
Love it. All right. Roxanne? Good.
Here, I live in California. Today is one of the days my children are at home. So next week they go back almost every day, which is like, yes. I am a returner. I've been spending the last 10 years as a stay-at-home mom and working on entrepreneurial endeavors, flipping houses. We owned an art gallery for a couple of years and being a president of Mom's Club, Tigard Tualatin for 5 years. So yeah, I'm just really excited about getting back into the corporate world.
Amazing. Love it, love it, love it. Linda.
Hey guys, I'm Linda. So I'm the operations manager here at Prowess. So hopefully you've heard from me. If you haven't, please let me know. But I am here to support you. So my background is in human resource management, psychology, and business operations in general. Thanks to Prowess, I was able to pivot my career and use all of my skills in a more useful way and a more flexible way, which is something I'm very passionate about. So I am here to pay it forward.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. And Brittany.
Hi guys, I would have my video on, but I just got a call from daycare actually. So I am en route and it would be super dangerous for me to have that on. But I am in business development with Prowess. So I am working primarily with current clients, then prospecting clients and really driving new development. So I'm working highly with the customer, hearing what they need and what they want, and then trying to do my best to relay it back to Linda and Leah and ensure that you guys get all the information that you need to be successful when you return or go back to work. So I'm excited to meet you all. I'm newer to the community, so for me, jumping on these calls just really helps get to know everybody and what you guys do. So look forward to meeting you. Reach out if you have questions.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. And then you all, I think, know me. I'm Ashley, CEO and founder of Prowess. Started Prowess 2 years ago, and I am in absolute awe of what we've built in the past 2 years. It is just amazing. I won't go into all of it because we have bigger things to talk about, like the traits that different companies are asking for. So many of you know one of the top things about Prowess is we are turning recruiting on its head. I quite frankly think the resume is bullshit. I don't understand why we're still dealing with this at 2021. All it shows on there is where you went to school and who you've worked for before. And that tells really nothing based on who you are as a person. And so what we do in our process and our vetting on the company side is getting a better understanding of who they are as people, what their culture is like. And when I say culture, I don't mean these are the 5 values that I'm putting up on the website just to like check that box. No, what we're getting into on a day-to-day basis talking to these employers are direct examples of behavior that is celebrated at their workplace. Because if you think about it, a lot of people can say a value that we look in for hiring is integrity. But integrity to you, Linda, could mean something very different to me, which could mean something very different to Victoria. And so we really want to zero in on the actual behaviors to make sure that we're matching up people who will be successful. So all that being said, this last sales call, we have a monthly or weekly call with our sales team. And we wanted to get a better understanding of what were the top traits that we were hearing that employers want. Now, these aren't going to be, this isn't rocket science. A lot of this you've probably heard before and you're like, yeah, absolutely. Of course they want that. But we want to dig deeper and talk about impressive ways that you can show the employer how you have these skills in spade, not say it. So for example, the first one that we hear all the time, which is not going to be surprising because a lot of you are operations managers and project managers, but we hear organized, 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 organized. However, like we said before, that can mean very different things to different people. So I would love to hear, and Linda, I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but when you're hearing or when you're in these interviews and someone wants, or the employer is asking a question like, are you organized? Or give me an example of a time you're organized. What are some good responses that you have heard?
Sure. Yeah. Recently, I think one of my favorite ones is actually 2 of our candidates said the same thing, that they've used project management tools like Trello to keep their personal life organized on top of their work life. So they use tools that are accessible to them and that makes sense to them in the workplace, also for their personal life. So that really shows the buy-in to the organization, to the technology, to wanting to be a process-driven person and keep things in line. Because if you're happy doing that at home, you're going to be able to do it even better at work. So I thought that was an awesome answer. I also love when people bring up different ways of syncing their technologies and the tools together. So maybe it's a handwritten whiteboard on the fridge that syncs up with the calendar that's shared between the husband and wife or parents at home. And then also understanding how that might play into the work-life experience. So how do you stay organized when you're working on different projects through tools like, of course, calendars, but taking it to the next level of task lists, to-do lists, checking in on Slack, keeping folders in your Outlook about this is this project, this is that project. But really being able to explain your process, because organization does mean a little bit of a different thing to everybody as well. So how do you make sure you're dotting all your I's and crossing all your T's, but also fulfilling what needs to be done at work? And I think one cool thing too, on top of that, is when people talk about how they find gaps, because we're not perfect and we're never going to be perfect, right? So what other way can I be more organized next time? Or where did I find a gap where I was missing something? And I fixed that moving forward. So just earlier today, one of our awesome candidates brought up a small part of a process where it was a missing tool that was earlier in the process and thought it just kind of carried along, but it didn't carry along. So she went back and updated her checklist to make sure that that's not going to happen again. So dealing with the current, dealing with how do you fix things from the past, and trying to think about the future using the tools and technology to do so.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Leah, anything else that you're hearing as far as organization? And y'all can say no. I'm just going to kind of call out, and you can say pass, whatever. Just want to hear from lots of different people here.
What I love that Linda brought up is the pulling from personal experience. So if you do feel like you have a gap in as far as like being professionally sitting at the desk or in a role with a title, there is something that we've all been doing as far as whether it is a volunteer activity or in our own lives that relates to that organization, and you can tell that story. And when you put it into a story, it is easier for that employer to then digest it and see like, okay, that does fit into the way in which I run my business. So yeah, Linda's are great examples of the calendaring ability, how you use your email and keep it organized. If you plan family vacations, what tool do you use to do that? Spreadsheets, if you've been doing family budgeting, all that stuff is relatable, and it's just the way in which you tell that story.
I definitely second the story part. I think it's always important to have a quick example or a quick story that really lands the point and makes it easier for someone to visualize.
Love it. And to give a bit of context too, when employers are asking for someone who's organized, what I have realized lately, being on the phone with Brittany as she's ramping up, is the employers are typically the visionary types. They're the types that have the big ideas and are, quite frankly, scattered. So if you think about it, like that's who I'm talking to. I'm talking to someone who is scattered, probably feels overwhelmed, probably feels like they're letting things drop. They probably feel like they have all of these ideas, but very little time to get that. How do I make them feel calm? How is whatever answer that I'm going to give, whatever story I'm going to give, how is that going to put them at ease? Because that is how they're feeling right now. They're asking for something because it's missing in their current environment.
I love that. That's a great point, Ash. I think when you're speaking, especially during an interview with someone, there are key phrases and things that you can say to reassure that person that you're hearing them and that you're listening. Even a quick, simple, yep, oh, I'm going to write that down, or yep, I got that. I'm taking notes. A quick summary, or after finishing the answer or the question, just relaying back to them, hey, I totally see how organization would matter to your clients or to your business, make it relatable to them. And I think I can help you using these tools. And this is what I heard from you. Did I get that right? So reassuring them, having that conversation, clarifying, and wrapping it up into, I heard you and I got you.
I love that. I love that.
I think another piece too, Ashley, this is Brittany, I'll add into that, just in work, talking with the clients recently that I've worked with, is from an organizational standpoint, a huge part of that too is being 2 steps ahead of them when it comes to organizing. So like Ashley alluded to, there's a lot of clients out there that will straight up say, like they are all over the place. They want someone to come in and help get them organized, but 2, once those processes are in place, it's also somebody who recognizes, hey, we could do a better job here and presenting it to them versus them coming to you and saying, I need help organizing this. So being on that front side, being 2 steps ahead of the client always. And again, back to Leah's point, if you can provide examples of that where you've identified there was a need for that in a situation, that's key on what they look for as well, because that's where they lack. That's really not their side. That's why they're reaching out for help there. So if there's someone who is always 2 steps ahead of them in that area, that helps immensely.
Absolutely. Brittany, you nailed it. Let's put a pin in that, because that's actually another one that I want to bring up. Specifically, I had one question. It is more something that I've been thinking about and something that I've been that I've been unclear about when it comes to organization. I think some people, they say they want someone organized, but maybe in that they're lumping in attention to detail. And it's not called out, but I feel like that's what they're expecting when they say someone who is organized. They mean someone, and I think even Linda said it, someone who's dotting I's, crossing T's, true attention to detail. So I just wanted to add that in. Any questions, comments you want to share, potentially share an example or role play? This is kind of y'all's time. If not, we can continue down the list. Awesome. So then the next one that I am going to bring up, or that we can dive into more, and Brittany, this was a perfect segue, is yes, you're exactly right. They say, hey, I want someone who is organized. And then they say, and someone who is 2 steps ahead. To us, what that means is someone who is proactive. And that's what we're hearing again, over and over and over again. So maybe we can go around kind of that same way that we just did. Linda, are you hearing that come up in interviews? Have you heard any good responses, bad responses that may need some work? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, proactive. Yeah, being ahead of the game. Sometimes it's as simple as knowing things are being tracked and forecasted, or prioritized even, really. So sometimes I've heard a candidate talk about a story where even just putting together an agenda for like a weekly meeting throughout the week. So it's not just like, oh crap, what do I have to talk about on Monday's meeting? Helping to land that information, or while you're having a conversation, already putting it into the Trello board and keeping notes, stories that just show that I'm paying attention to the big picture and I'm listening to you, but I'm also going to make sure that all of these little pieces that need to fit into place to get to that point are going to be there, and they're supported and they're paid attention to. And of course, it's always looking at, how do we get to the close? Is it the close of the task or the close of the sale, or whatever it is what are we doing to get there? Because one conversation needs to lead to the next. So being prepared, understanding what you're doing, what you're working with, and being able to show that it's solution-based, prioritized, and just being paid attention to. So what needs to happen next, so that these people can keep having their big ideas and their movement and their goals, and know that shit's being handled.
Totally.
And I could add to this, Ashley. So I've seen just in my career, there's 2 really avenues that proactive individuals can be super successful. The first is with a client that's maybe weak in a certain area, or maybe they don't have vast experience in a certain area, for example, with the software that they're using, but that's an area they know that they need to improve. Seeing that and recognizing it as an individual and bringing that to their attention, but being proactive about the steps that it needs to take to make those changes, or recognizing that before the employer does, and taking the steps to do that. Now, it kind of goes second-handedly with also identifying risks. So if you notice that there's a risk, and like I said, these employers are going 900 miles an hour most of the time too. So we may see things that they don't always necessarily see, and being proactive and identifying those risks is huge to them. And it just shows you're invested. It shows that you know about the business, you know about competitors, just all of that type of stuff. Risk is a huge one when you can identify that area of concern for them and be proactive about what you can do to mitigate that risk and change it, or prevent it at all costs, is really important.
It's a great point,
that.
Brittany.
Yeah, that is a really great point that I don't think that I had put together. Yeah, the risk. That's a great point.
And actually, I was going to reflect on a little bit, in the way in which an interview, because I think employers will, I feel like how are you proactive can sometimes be a trick question, because people have their way of doing things. And so that's also a way of finding out, is this person going to come in and want to change everything I'm doing? Are they going to want to just add a different software because that's what they like better? So kind of setting that person in the interview at ease of saying things like, well, first thing I would like to do is just learn more about your system. So I like to do kind of a discovery conversation. For example, we use that onboarding document to help facilitate those conversations. So it's an easy entry point to ask some difficult questions, and find out kind of the why behind their systems. And then Brittany's point is excellent, kind of assessing that risk. And so it's kind of letting them know, I'm going to come in first and do an assessment and see where everything is and see how that assimilates into my past knowledge, learn your systems and where they are. And then, bring up anything that I think we need to improve upon, but not letting them know that you're not going to come in and want to change everything. So for example, sometimes when we work with startups, or someone might be, they like their Outlook, they like their spreadsheets, they don't want to do Google Suites, they want Excel. So how are you going to let them know, and I'm okay with that, and we're going to take some time, we're going to figure it out, but we're also going to get you as efficient as possible. And the way I like to do that is X, Y, and Z. I like to use checklists. I like to put things in this kind of board, but I know for the meeting with you, I'm going to prepare an agenda that I will email you the night before. Just letting them be at ease with what you're going to do and not railroad them.
Does that, for Sharon, Victoria, Jennifer, does any of what we've talked about before like make you nervous or unsure or anything? I'm just curious, like, if you feel like, yeah, these are things that I could say, or hey, yeah, these are things that I could implement in my interview, or does this seem completely way off?
I feel like, yes, all of it. I mean, I think that I need to get my hands a little more dirty with learning some different software systems and being more digital, but
did you get it to work? No.
But other than that, it's all kind of sounding familiar because it is kind of the way I do life at home with like the spreadsheets and, like organization, just how I do budgeting and all of that kind of thing. It's actually really encouraging to hear you guys say all of that, because I'm like, okay, that doesn't sound as intimidating as I thought it, you know what I mean? It might be. But again, I feel like, just becoming more aware of how some of these things work so that I can then provide for the client, you know what I mean? Like more of an upgraded system, not like you said, Leah, not changing the system, but helping them become more efficient.
Awesome.
For me, this is very early. I'm very early in the job re-entering my journey. So I'm just kind of taking in information.
Good. Love it. Anything else? One thing that I was thinking about when I say I want someone who is proactive, what immediately comes to mind for me is someone who brings me solutions, not problems. We had an advisor meeting this morning and Leah and I were on it. And if I heard one more problem with no solution and these are people who mean the best, right? But it was just like, oh my God, well, at what point do you want me to solve said problem? Like, you guys are all smart people too, help us. And so that was just an example of someone, or example of a time that I even felt that way. And I even asked in this meeting, hey, can one of you be proactive? If there's something that you think Leah is going to need, instead of waiting for her to ask, can you just offer it? And so that's just an example in real life, not even an interview, of just how I think of proactive and how I even need it with everyone. So food for thought. All right. So we got organized, we got proactive. What we hear all the time, good communication. And this one is so tricky. This one is so tricky because I feel like everyone has different communication styles. And everyone has their own quirks as far as, or preferences as far as the channels they use for communication. Are you long-winded? Are you short? Are you to the point? Like, there's all these differences. So what does good communication really mean? And what are the questions that we should be asking before, or what should we know about the person who we are interviewing in order to deliver them what good communication to them actually is? Did what I just say make sense?
Yeah, it did. So I love that you brought that up, because when Prowess supports the interview process with our Prowess pros, we talk about communication styles, and we get a chance to kind of give people a heads up on like, hey, this person's super direct, or this person's kind of cautious and likes to get reassurance. So one of my biggest tips is just to ask. So when they say, what is your communication like? Well, let's talk about what you use when do you need certain communications? How do we escalate? What tools are you using? Because it's about grammar and talking professionally, of course, and making sure that you're checking your spelling when possible. But really, that stuff can get overlooked because we're a diverse world and things can be done differently between us and among us. But let's talk about how often we communicate, and when do we let messages sit on unread, or when do we say, hey, I'm going to get back to you on that one, or I'm back in office tomorrow morning, that's first on my list. When do you give communication even if you're not working directly on what's needed in that moment? So is it a text message? Is it a Slack message? Is it an IM on Teams? Or maybe it's an update or a comment in Excel, or Google Sheets, or in an email. So we all know that emails are great, but they can get lost sometimes, and holy hell do our boxes get full. So just responding to a client or especially to a company's customer, like, hey, I heard you, and you're on my radar, and you're on my list. And I've loved recently seeing little touches of like, hey, I work odd hours sometimes, please respond Monday morning. I got that from a client recently, and I immediately did want to respond like, oh, let me drop what I'm doing. But it's like, oh yeah, that was a gracious communication style that she offered to me. So being aware of who you're talking to and what's urgent to them and what tools are used, because it is more about the tools and the methods of communication rather than what you're saying or how you're writing it. And how do you make sure that you let somebody know that I want to learn your communication and I want to understand what matters to you, and what steps do I take to get the message through? Also, what do I do if maybe we're not hearing each other? How do we have that conversation of like, oh, I'm not sure I understood you, or can we rehash that, or can we put a pin in that, or can we come back to that, or can we clarify?
I think this is a great example of a question that you can answer, like kind of all three that we talked about so far. So you can, if someone brought this up in an interview to say, how do you like to communicate? This is a great way we talk about the STAR approach, the situation, task, action, result in an interview, to say, to describe the way in which you have handled communication in the past. So for example, you could say, what I like to do is find out how you best want to handle urgent issues, detailed reports, and meetings. So I would sit down with you and we would talk through these types of communication. I would then make a note of that, put that in our tracker, document it, so I can then reflect on it to say, if it's urgent, I'm going to text you. If this is something I have questions on, I need more feedback, I'm going to hold it for our Monday huddles, right? So you can show them how you're proactive about a communication plan and how much attention you put into that and how you organize it with kind of one question. So, we talk about that a lot in interviews, but I think communication is one where you can kind of demonstrate all that you have to offer. But I also think it's important too that you're letting them know, I'm going to check with you first and see how you like this information to flow. But then also, I have two-part answer to this one, Ashley. I also encourage people that in that interview that you're real honest about how you communicate. So we talk about personality styles here at Prowess a lot. And for example, I fall into the conscientious personality style. So I tend to have a lot of questions that run around in my head. And if I'm not honest with who I'm working with, that like, hey, I'm going to need some of your time to just answer my questions that I get nervous about in the beginning of a project, so that I can then run from then on. But I'm going to need maybe 15 minutes on your calendar every day the first week. And then after that, I'm usually good to go. But just kind of setting it up, if you're the type of person who needs to ask questions, there's nothing wrong with that. But set the expectation that you might want a little more time. Or if you're the person who wants to get it all finished and then deliver it and then take it apart, check with them first if that's the way they operate, versus then because that communication style then could feel kind of like you're being put, It could just turn out negative if you're like, well, I got all this feedback at the end, but you didn't give them the opportunity to comment on it along the way. Does that make any sense?
I love it. I think that is so incredibly key. Any questions here? Any comments?
I'll just add my piece on this too. Ash, I think communication has always been super clutch and important in any type of role. However, with a lot of these positions now being remote and with clients and customers being required to work remote with individuals, it's a whole new level that not everybody's a customer used to. So it's so much better to over communicate versus under communicate until those barriers are established. And just like Leah and Linda alluded to, it's best to just put it out there, seek to understand, put in the time with the client on the front end so that on the back end, you can just go and you don't need their time and they can trust you and that reliability is there. Because that's at the end of the day, it goes back to they want someone who can just dive in and take control and they can trust that, right? But communication is the only way that you're going to succeed and build that base. So.
And I love what you're saying, Brittany. I do think if you, and Leah, you were saying this too, I do think that if you come into the first meeting, and we do try and give this in our onboarding document, but with a list of these questions, you're gonna look like you've done this before. You're gonna look like, hey, I've got this. I know what works. I'm gonna ask these questions and get ahead of it. And even though they may seem so small and so little, and do you prefer email over text message? Those little annoyances are what really snowballs and becomes these massive voids or massive like resentment in teams. I've seen it time and time again. I've heard it time and time again. And so I think you're exactly right. Coming in from the get-go and saying, hey, look, how do you want this? What is priority? How do we communicate this? And I really like what you said, Linda. How do we have uncomfortable conversations? Like I'm a big fan of Brene Brown, and she calls them rumbles, where you're gonna go into the conversation. It's expected that there's probably going to be disagreeing, but it's not contentious. It's just two different opinions. And so going in and saying, hey, can we have a rumble? I don't think I've ever used that with Prowess, but I like the sentiment of it because you come in with okay, the goal is to uncover some differences, but in the end, come out with a compromise. And I think that that's really, really cool. Highly recommend Brene Brown on some of her on her lingo. And again, even if you're not married to the term, the way she goes about it and just calls out, hey, the point of this meeting is this, and it is okay to disagree. So I think we're all such people pleasers oftentimes, and we're afraid to speak up when there very well could be a better solution.
And I'll just throw out too that all of her stuff is, if you go on her website, she posts all of the resources that she uses when they work with companies. She posts those tools for free. So you can just go and peruse those and see. And it's all about how she goes in and works with companies when they want to help with the structure of how a company communicates.
She's amazing. I love Brene Brown.
Yes. She is on our vision board to speak at a conference, a future Prowess conference. So please all manifest that with us, and
Heck
it
yeah.
will happen. So stay tuned for that one. Any other questions, comments, worries about the communication?
I just want to add to that too. And I think this is one thing that tying this and proactivity together is you going in and having these conversations from the get-go, like right at the front. That is your first step at taking the initiative and being proactive, saying, here's that right there is an example you can use 1, 2 in an interview. Here's how I'm really successful. That right there is tying the communication, the proactivity together.
I love that. And quite frankly, I would be so impressed if someone came in and had that conversation with me in an interview and or in our first conversation, just being that buttoned up. I mean, it'd be amazing. So this is all awesome. Time check. We have a little less than 20 minutes, and there's two more that I wanted, well, one more and then another thing that I want to talk about. The last one that we hear all the time is adaptability. Someone who is not set in their ways. And Leah brought this up, like, it's okay for the client to be set in their ways and the client to only use Excel and not use Google Sheets. But what they keep coming to us for, or, hey, we want someone who will flex, who is happy to essentially flex to my needs and how my working style is. Now, that is not everyone, and that is okay. And like we said before, I think Leah brought it up, that you're going to have your own communication style and you need to hold firm on that. But I'm curious, Linda, have you had any employers ask about adaptability?
Adaptability. So
it's okay if no.
Pretty common. Yeah, no, I would say flexibility. Flexing is probably the word that's used more often.
Okay.
And it's talking about, hey, if I'm in a small company or a startup, especially, most likely we're wearing multiple hats. So I would say that type of situation comes up often in these types of roles. It's like, yep, I need you to be a process manager, a project manager, an operations person, help me out here and there. But really, we all got to be on the same team, helping each other out, flexing our schedules, flexing our tasks, being willing to learn, and really just jumping in and wanting to be a part of the whole picture. So I think at the end of the day, when you can talk about wearing multiple hats and being excited to learn and to be excited to gain new skills and put your value in different places, that is most common at the moment.
I love that.
Can I just say, for like the real world part of this, like if we're a woman or mom that just survived the last year of the whole coronavirus, we've mastered flexibility, right? Like if we're still standing at this point, we've all done it. I mean, I think it is much more natural as women to be flexible. So, and again, I think that's where you can put it into a story of, yeah, I had to manage these expectations, and whether that is a professional example or, a family example, we do it, and our intent is to make everyone happy, right? Like that's typically what we're doing, is to making sure all the temperatures remain calm. So those are all great examples in an interview that we can use, even if they're not specifically about a corporate team.
Such a great point. And I love tying it into life, not just work too.
Mm-hmm.
I like that a lot.
But I do think Linda made a great point. I think what a lot of times they're wanting to know is, can you wear multiple hats on my team? And again, women and moms, I mean, we do this, right? See, there's Brittany.
I'm trying. I'm doing it. You had to get this time in. You had to get. Yeah. That's exactly it. I agree. Exactly what you guys said.
And there was one other thing that I wanted to say about flexibility. Oh, going back to what I was saying before, when you're thinking about organized, who are you talking to? So again, most of the time you're talking to an entrepreneur who is typically the visionary. So when you're realistically working with a scattered person, gosh, poor Leah has to deal with this all the time with me. We are going 100 miles per hour down this one road, and then all of a sudden I talk to this one person who I think is going to change our business and for the best, and we're about to be the next Google, and oh my gosh, and then I'm going immediately 180 degree change. And what is really great that Leah does is she makes me feel, she makes me feel like both are taken care of, and she can adapt with me, but also pushes back on when I'm being like cuckoo nuts crazy. And I think that that has a lot to do with adaptability, because you also don't want someone, or you also don't want to be the pushover. Whereas if I'm saying the sky is green, the sky is purple, the sky is blue, and you just going along with it to be adaptable, that's not good either.
And this is, I think this is a great one again, where you can tie in the other, am I organized, am I proactive, by saying, okay, well, here's our list of priorities that we established on Monday. And if you're going to add this one in, which one of these drop off, right? And even though that feels like that might be, I think my first thought is I'm not being flexible, but that's actually helping the other person to be like, oh, that's right. We talked about, moving all the kitchen cabinets on Monday. Let's make sure that stays a priority. So it's, again, how did you organize that information from the meeting? How do you come back and say, I'm happy to be flexible. I can rearrange my time, but which one of these, needs to give? Because there's no reason for us to take all of the burden in being flexible. Not that Ashley does this to me, because I actually use Ashley's example all the time, is that when something comes up, I will say, that's great. Like right now, if something came up and I was like, we need to have this whole financial forecasting done, I would say, that's great. I can get that done next Tuesday. Will that work for you? So Ashley taught me this one. I'm letting her know the next available slot in my calendar that could get done, right? I'm not rearranging everything I'm doing between now and then. I'm saying, that's my next time slot. Will that work for you? So I'm happy to be flexible to take it on, but I'm not willing to not see my kids or cancel everything or work twice, double in a meeting just to make this project. And sometimes those projects, then you're like, you know what, it's not that big of a priority, or we realize what else we don't really need to do. So again, it's a way to showcase how you're organized.
I was actually going to say the same thing. So go Leah, because it's important that it's not, you're not saying no, you're just saying this is when I can. So you are still flexing and saying, yeah, it's just setting those expectations. And it's also important to be honest and open about the process and the progress of things. So maybe something's falling behind, and if you don't say anything about it, then that can be a problem, right? But if you're open and honest about, hey, I'm not sure about this deadline, could we readjust or reconnect on it? That's an important part of the whole picture as well.
Well, and can I also say, go ahead, Brittany.
Oh, and I was just going to say, what I'm hearing from the clients is, when they say being flexible to it, that there's not one specific task, right? So they are all over the place. So one day it could be this that they need help with, the next day it could be something else. And so just being flexible with knowing your day-to-day might change is also kind of the avenue that they're looking for. You might be available this time, but you might be doing something different. So really being flexible in that regard, that the day-to-day work might be different from every other day to the next. So.
And now I'm going to have to remember what I wanted to say, and I don't remember, because Brittany made a great point. I know. So I was going to say that in this whole thing, when new things come up for us as in the role, to also be able to say, that's great, I'm happy to take that on, but you know what, I might need more time to learn, right? If someone says we want to change our entire software, that's great. I'm happy to help implement that, but I am going to need to take time to learn it. So sometimes, Jennifer probably remembers the video that we talked about effective promises, that when we make a promise to the client that I'm going to be flexible, that's the promise. That still also comes with the ability for you to ask questions, for you to have clarity, for you to make it work for you. That we're not like it's not like this commitment to then never be able to raise our hand and cry uncle again. Like, it's okay to say flexibility comes with me needing clear understanding and boundaries.
Oh, I really like that. I really, really like that. So we have less than 10 minutes. I got probably 5 more ideas of small group discussions that I want to have. But what I do want to end this with is everyone going around and saying like the aha for today. And if you didn't have one, that's cool. Let us know, because that means we probably need to dive into a different topic. But like, what is the one takeaway that like, oh yeah, yeah, I could Yeah, that makes sense. I'm very curious. Who wants to go first?
Mine right off the bat was easy. It was when we're talking about organization and getting things done and being proactive. It's not just about how you're going to get things done, but how you're going to mitigate that risk or make sure things don't fall apart. I thought that was awesome.
I really like that too.
For me, it was relating those transferable skills that you utilize in everyday life at home to what you do in work. Don't be afraid to, puff your chest out about your superpowers at home.
Absolutely.
I love it.
The aha for me was that the common thread in all of these bullet points is that you need to do the front end work first so you're not struggling all along the way. It's worth it to invest the time in the beginning to establish your communication plan, the way you're going to be doing things. So that way you're not bogged down by it. And don't bring problems to entrepreneurs. They're swirling in a world of problems. You need to come to them with solutions or you're wasting their time.
Yeah, exactly what Jennifer and Roxanne said. And for me, just in general, just hearing, okay, like this is how to start my first conversations with a client. This is the information that I need, and what are really good questions to ask to set a really good, solid foundation of relationship and communication.
Love it.
For me, it was really helpful to hear these things. It also makes me realize that I'm really early in my process. So before I even think about interviews, I think like I need to update some of my skills, because like some of the things you guys talked about, like Trello, I don't know what that is. I've never heard of it. I'm just taking a seminar on with Reboot about how to use Slack.
Yeah.
So, but these things are actually, this has been really helpful for me to think about once I'm ready to start the interview process. But I think I'm a little ways from that.
Hey, it sounds like you're doing a great job though in investing in yourself and paying attention to opportunities to learn. So hats off to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's been interesting. A lot has changed in 18 years.
Lots changed in like 4 years. I mean, the technology, it's just every day it's different. So, and that's, I think, part of it too. Like, and Brittany, going back again to that idea of risk, that's what a lot of these employers, it's kind of their fear, right? Like they have things, they're taking a risk and bringing someone new. So how do we make them feel at ease? And just the ability to learn, right? Like on your journey, the first thing you did was take a class on Slack. Now that I'm not afraid to learn new technology is huge.
Double tap that. That is so huge. A lot of the employers that we talk to, they actually don't care that the actual program. They want to know that you learn technology and pick up technology quickly.
Yeah, I second that. One of the candidates that I talked to today, she didn't know the actual technology, but because she knew the interview was coming up, she did some research already and started looking into it so that she can at least talk some of the lingo with the client today to ensure that, or to reassure him that, yep, I'm going to learn and I'm dedicated and I can learn.
It's fantastic. This has been so great. I'm really, really excited about these small groups. I'm pumped that we have another like 3 or 4 more, probably maybe even more than that. And so hopefully we'll be doing more. One thing that came up for me of a topic next time, and I'm curious if this is something that y'all want to know. Tell me if it's not, because I don't want to waste time. I like questions that we hate during interviews. Like, what is your biggest weakness? Like, come on. How are you supposed to answer? Right. Like what? How are we supposed to answer that? Or what I also really want to talk about that we didn't get to because we had so much great conversation. What if you're not organized? What happens then? Like, I'm not that organized, but that's a top trait that they want. So like, what do you say, or how do you how do you show a different trait that you're really great for, or what type of jobs should you stay away from because you're ultimately not going to be happy because they're going to want organization. So anyway, just two thoughts that came to mind of more conversations we could have.
I think that's a good point, Ashley, too, is you may not, maybe you're really great at organizing, but you don't like it, right? And you just don't want to do it. So what other opportunities are there that you can get into? That's a really good point. I like that.
Yeah,
I
I
would
think
say-
there's
Yeah,
there's a lot of
we're-
women that want rigid structure too. So flexibility might be a hard one to answer for a lot of people.
And I was gonna say, we're organized about what we're passionate about, right? So my husband's office is a mess, but if you go into where he does his like woodworking and tools, it's impeccable. So it's okay if like, yes, what they're talking about, if that's not inspiring, then it's not the right job, and that's okay too.
Solid point. Love that.
Yep. Well, awesome. Thank you all so much for being here. This was really fun. This was definitely a highlight of my week. So thank you. If you have any questions, anything else, any ideas for other topics, let us know. Keep on manifesting all the Brene Brown subjects.
We got you.
Spelling that out. All right, y'all have a good rest of your day.